overtaken by some madness. Galadir has ventured into the rift. The air is thick with menace, and the stench of Thauloch lingers.
Welcome, this is Pineleaf Needles, Skirmisher Middle-earth, and we're about to start the last of the skirmishes that you unlock. Rescue at Nûrz Ghâshu. First though, we need to talk to Coroner here. We have done well to make it this far, Pineleaf, but it seems that many of the evils that once dwelt here have retreated into the deepest depths of Nûrz Ghâshu. It may be too much to hope that our passage to remain unnoticed. What can have driven Galadir to make this dangerous journey? Has he lost all hope of the future? He has suffered so much, more than any one man should, and yet he persevered. Has he at last given into despair? We must keep moving. Norbar is ahead. I fear that we may find what we may find there. Galadir is not himself. Okay, now he gives his speech there. And we are about to head into the rift. Actually, based on the scenario, we are about in the middle of the original raid instance. You get through quite a bit before you get to this room. And we go in here and a volcano pops up in front of us. But now we need to fight off a wave of attackers. Now these waves are actually fairly weak when you look at it. This one has 2 weeks and a lieutenant. In fact, the waves are rather consistent here. You either have 1 week, 2 weeks, or 1 hail plus 1 lieutenant. And this is different from most skirmishes where the lieutenant is optional there. Now you just hit the fumarole in order to continue after he finds the weak spot. Or at least that's in solo runs. And now we are on, the path is clear, we have another fumarole. When you're in a group, in order to break through the weakness, you need a fellowship maneuver instead. But since you have no fellowship maneuvers in solo runs, it's just hit it. Now the other difference here though is even though you've got only hails and weeks, you do have a habit of getting those special abilities that are left out in most skirmishes. Most skirmishes, for example, you don't get healers in solo runs. They only heal at higher group ratings. But in this skirmish, they have more abilities. I guess that was to balance it out, though it doesn't quite balance it out. Alright, now this one took 2 times in order to break through the weakness. So the first one takes 1, the second takes 2, and the last one will take 3. Now in this case, they could either come from this direction or from this direction. They're not there yet, so they must be coming from this way. Now I like to come down here, though most players, I believe, like to stay up on top of the stairs. Now this is the last skirmish that unlocks. So this will be the last bit in our series for this season. Now I like to use the hampering javelin for this. And the reason why I use hampering javelin is so I don't have to get next to it, and also to avoid bleeds. In fact, that's probably the main reason, since you tend to have bleeds on things where you hit with the spear. And the reason why I avoid bleeds is because there's a bit of a bug here where sometimes if you throw something with a bleed on it, it may cause it to go through 2 rotations. And that can be a little bit annoying because you could be triggering 2 counter attacks at once, or causing him to advance or something like that when you're fighting the next group, and I'd prefer to avoid that. Though some people actually take advantage of that little feature in order to make things go a little bit faster. Now the other thing to know is that if you stunned it. One of the problems is that if you're not fast enough, if you take too long in hitting them or doing the fellowship maneuver, or if you do the wrong fellowship maneuver if you're in a group, then he complains and saying you're too slow. And whenever he does that, alright, I might as well eat something before I do the encounters. And if you're too slow, then you face another wave before you get another chance. So therefore, it's a minimum of 3 waves you'll face at the 3rd one, for example. Now there is a max. He does eventually give up and says, oh, alright, I'll break through the weakness myself if you go through enough times. Just keep in mind that if you are trying to... Oh, ouch. Paying attention to my morale there. Ooh. Alright, good. Let's see, what was the other one? Oh, the stone pile. That's also up here. This thing here. Let me get my morale back up. Is some people intentionally fail it so that they can face a few extra lieutenants or something like that. Since this one can be good for going through lieutenants. Now, one of the things about this skirmish is that it is one of the fast ones, therefore, well, in some ways that's good, but in other ways that means it also, of course, has the lowest payout at the end. Now, you come in through that portal there, so you need to resummon your soldier. Now we get all the way across Norbar here into, we're in an arena here, Coliseum. Apparently the folks of Angmar like watching people fight in a lava-filled room. And now they'll talk for a moment, and while they talk, I might as well see what's in my Hobbit presents. Ooh. Mounted speed buffs. And skirmish marks. I know. Perfect at the end of the series. He speaks of his daughter as if she were still lived, Pineleaf. There is some great evil at work here. What has raised this madness in the minds of my mentor? To cruelly seize upon the grief as he hear, and what can be done about it? Now, if you're in a group, before you get to this stage, before he gets the quest ring, Gladden came up and bashed on you some and you needed a fellowship maneuver in order to calm them. And generally, the ones that are in the room with the fumaroles, you need fellowship maneuvers like red and yellow, things that do attacks. And with Goladir, you need ones that are green or blue, which means that they're done for healing type. What is this feeling? Can you not sense it? Darkness and power. This force has imposed its will upon Goladir. It poisoned him against him, which is why he attacks us, if you're not solo. Now the other thing you'll notice is you have these Kyrog all over the place. There are 4 of them there. You don't face them in solo runs. Instead you just face them in group runs. Now what I'm going to do is, now I really don't need to do this, I think. But if I'm lucky, he might reach here before the end. No, Flax is going to kill him. But, oh no, actually he does get killed by the trap. Is you can bring him to this trap here, if you need a little bit of help. And that will wear him down. It puts a debuff on him. So that's all nice and good. You don't always need to use that. So it's not too bad on there. Now, if there is this long speech though. If you are in a group run, there is the trick of keeping Goladir alive. Remember, he's attacking you every once in a while. You can't bash on him with super powerful attacks. You need to use those fellowship maneuvers and avoid killing him. The old joke is that you get a burglar who has a butter knife to start the fellowship maneuvers whenever he starts attacking you. So the burglar doesn't do much damage, but he's able to set off the Goladir fellowship maneuver without killing him. And the idea is the burglar stays on Goladir, and the other 5, I'm 5 if you're in a full fellowship here, or the other 11 if you're in a raid, could then go work on the others. And that's where you have the Kyrog come up, because in a group, in a small fellowship run, for example, you would have 1 of these. I think in a full fellowship you get 2 of them, and of course in a raid you get all 4 of them, since... And what fun will it to have only 3 of them if you've got a 4th block there? Anyway, I shudder to think what awaited Goladir beyond this door. Ereburn's dominance of his mind of any mentor was... My mentor was strong. What would Goladir have seen there that had remained under the Rogmol's power? I care not guess. I know only that it would have been... not have been Lorniel, and perhaps that would have been enough to destroy Goladir forever. Let us escape to the surface. Nûrz Ghâshu is no place for us, or for our loved ones. And that ends Rescue at Nûrz Ghâshu. And that also ends the 2nd season of Skirmisher of Middle-earth.
You have my deepest thanks for aiding me in the rescue of Goladir.
So the question is,
You have come a great way, and should
what
now
will we
return
do
to
for
River.
Season 3? Since we have covered all the skirmishes, I have decided that we will try looking at each class in more detail and see how they do various skirmishes, starting with the burglar and going up in alphabetical order. And one of the reasons for this is because before, when I was going through each class, I would do one run with the class, go on to the next run, and always forget what that class does. So therefore I was constantly running with a class that I didn't know how to play, because I kept on switching classes when I was going through there. So this time I will dedicate a month's worth to each class, get to know the class, and run a series of skirmishes with that class. And with each of them, I will be running skirmishes in which I have not yet finished the encounter deeds. And the idea is with the theme of the series, which is Skirmisher of Middle-earth. And part of the reason for doing it is, of course, highlighting completing encounter deeds, and perhaps maybe I'll complete a few of them there. And last in the list, of course, would be the Warden, where I hope to return to this character. And at that time, be able to finish the last of the encounter deeds. We'll see how the schedule works. But next time, on Skirmisher Middle-earth, we'll begin Season 3 with the Burglar and see how well I can actually get things together there. And until then, this is Pineleaf Needles, and remember to skirmish responsibly.